I am Anna-Kristin Jeppsen, and I'm a LS1 product specialist here at LS Retail. I am located in Reykjavik, Iceland, and I've been working with LS Retail since 2008 and been in the LS1 team since. Had various roles within this team, everything from testing, documentation, presentation, training, and now I do, any of that needed. As you might already know, LS Retail is an independent software vendor which develops business solutions for both the retail and the hospitality sector. We are actually located across the world with our headquarters here in Reykjavik, where I am. We also have subsidiaries in the US, Middle East, Kuala Lumpur and Australia, and we have consultants working all over. So today we're going to have a look at our product LS1, which is a standalone retail platform, and we've been working with both hardware and technology partners for distributing LS1, and we have our own back office, which we will be having a look at to set up the POS solution. So our back office is for that. Then LS Retail also has LS NAV based on Dynamics NAV. And we have LS First, which is hospitality, mainly hospitality functionality built on top of Dynamics AX. So both quick service restaurants and things like that. Then we have a team called LS Omni. And the LS Omni team provides mobile solutions for all our products. So for an example, LS1 can connect to both the mobile POS, and since the latest release, we can also connect to the mobile inventory app. So that's available to LS1 users from now. LS1 is a feature-rich, flexible and scalable POS solution. And we have all the main retail functionality you expect to see in a POS. It can run on any Windows device. So you can run it on a full Windows tablet, for an example, if you want a handheld device with all the POS functionality. It can run online and offline, meaning that you have the database on hand and you can run even though your network is down. And you have all this flexible discounts. You can do inventory handling with LS1, with the loyalty and gift cards and all this. And we're going to have a look at it in the demo. LS1 can also do hospitality, so you can have table management and printing in the kitchen and so on. And the LS1 can be connected to any ERP solution. And we provide the integration framework to make it easier for our partners to integrate with other ERP solutions. So this is the distribution of LS1 installations in the world. So we are spread quite across the world, and we have over 350 companies using over 5,000 POS terminals, and it's in over 40 countries. Here are some of our brands using LS1. So we have Le Creuset across the world with running LS1 in their stores. We have H&M franchise in Thailand and Indonesia. We have ExxonMobil in Singapore running gas stations. We have pharmacy shops here in Iceland running LS1 and so on. So you can see it's a wide variety of stores that is using LS1. Here is the distribution between these verticals using LS1. So we do the pharmacies, and we talked about the forecourt, and we are actually growing a lot in the duty-free market, so on. So this is just the distribution between the verticals. So before we start the demo, I'm just saying that we have the POS solution, and that is one POS, and our back office, which we call the site manager. So this is something I'm going to be talking about during the demo. So when I say in the site manager, you know it's the back office. Now we'll just jump to the demo. So this is this site manager. which is the back office where we control the POS from. So here is where we create our items and our discounts and so on. When we log in, this is the screen that we come into. It's the dashboard, and the dashboard has some various tickets with information from different parts of the system. And sometimes we get yellow and red tickets saying that we have something left in our initial setup and something like that. So it's warning us for different kind of things. We have a top navigation similar to the Office products. So from the top ribbon, you can find all the functionality available in LS1. Let's just have a look at the first tab, which is the item tab. So here you would find anything that has to do with setting up the items, creating new items, discounts, setting up the prices, and so on. Let's just have first look at the item list. So this is a list of all the items in the system. We have a possibility of filtering these items. So if we want to work with a subset of items, you can say, okay, I want to have a look at all the items in a specific retail group, for an example. And you can look at these and work with these as a bunch. So I'm just going to open the first item. So this is the item card. And here you can see initial information about the item. First we have the item hierarchy. And in LS1, the hierarchy is items go in retail groups in departments, and departments in divisions. And the hierarchy can be used, to put a discount on a retail group rather than individual items. And for reporting and so on, you can use these groups and this hierarchy. We also have something called special groups, which I want to mention, and you can create a group of unrelated items. So you can say, I want to do a promotion or a discount offer for all items in a brand, and those items might be shoes and t-shirts and items from different retail groups. Then you can group them together in a special group and create a discount for that special group. And special groups can also be used for reporting functionality. If we have a closer look a little bit on the item before we go and have a look at the POS, the prices here. So we have one main price for the item. And this is the base sales price, and this is the price which is used if nothing else is found. But in LS1, you can also set a trade agreement sales price. So a trade agreement sales price can be based on which currency your store is in. So if you have stores in multiple countries, you can have different prices in the different currency stores. And then we can also have different groups of stores. So if you have a group of bigger stores and a group of smaller stores, you can have various pricing for the same product in these, groups of stores. The prices can be set up per different units. So the 6-pack is cheaper than actually buying 6 individual items, for an example, and so on. So here you set up the prices, and the POS will select the correct price for the customer. Then we can also do promotions and discounts, and I'm going to come back to all this and not talk about it all at once. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to open the POS. I have multiple stores in my database, so I can connect to different stores, and I'm connecting to the most standard layout that I have here. So I'm logging into the store. Here we have the POS. So on the left-hand side, we have the receipt or the list of all items that are added. You have the totals of the transaction. We have some informational windows here. I'm going to sell one item so you can see actually what happens here. So this is just a comment on the operation I was running, tells you what you were doing and so on. We have an item image, And you can have multiple images, then you can page between them in here. You can add a customer to the transaction. Let's do that quickly. Then you have the customer information. Here's actually supposed to be a store logo, which is missing. And then we have the buttons. So we have a navigational panel here. So you can navigate between different panels on the right-hand side. And this enables you to create any button grids that you want and your customer needs. So you would organize the operation that your customers are using into the panels and have them easily found, the operations that are most often used. So these are the operations, and this is just navigational ones. And then we have some item sales buttons down here, like I was selling an item by pressing the buttons. You can, of course, sell an item by scanning a barcode. You can also sell an item by item ID or PLU code or whatever you want to call it. And we also have an item search. So the item search is here. It can be either like a list like this where you search for by text, but you can also do it by images. The item search can actually be filtered by retail groups. So this is a good thing that you could filter items by the retail group vegetables, for an example, and it's easy to find the vegetables that you don't know what they're called, for an example. That's how you sell the items, and of course we have all this main operation of changing the quantity of the items, lines. You can override the price, you can void item lines, change the unit of measure, and so on. And we can also return items. So with all these operations, there are permissions for the user. Not everyone is supposed to be, is not allowed to return an item, for an example. So every operation that is on the buttons has a permission, and in the site manager you set up your users. You take these permissions, divide them into user groups, and we can have one user group called cashier, for an example. Let's just have a look at it. This is the site manager. I am opening the user groups first. So here I'm looking at the administrator group. I have something called the cashier group, and this is something just you can set up and select which operations are available for each group and which groups are available. So the cashiers are not allowed to do anything in the site manager, so you can see a lot of denied permissions here. But when I come down to the POS permissions, so this is the same functionality both for the site manager and the POS. Here, when I see the POS permissions, you can see something that the cashier is allowed to do. So this is where you control what each of the users can do. And we can also set in the user profiles how much discount, a discount limit and the return limit. So you're allowed to return cheaper items but not the more expensive ones, and so on. That was for the users. I'm going to finalize this transaction. So I'm going to pay. I have a tender menu here, and you can do multiple tendering. That is, you can use multiple payment options for each transaction. So here I was not going to press that one, I'm sorry. I was actually going to press currency. And I have, let's say, 1,000 kronas, which I want to get rid of because I'm just a tourist here or something. So I'm paying 1,000 kronas in Icelandic kronas. So it has translated to euros, and then I pay for the rest by cash, for an example. I have 11.70 left, I pay 20, I get 8.30 back, and the drawer would open. In LS1 we can do gift cards. So one of the payment options is to pay with a gift card. And the gift cards could be either plastic cards, which can be refillable. You can have gift cards which are printed there with an idea either which is pre-printed or just given to the gift card when you create it. So there are different options here. The gift cards are kept centrally, so all the gift cards are available in all the stores. We can create credit memos for negative balance in the POS, so if you're returning something, you can get a credit memo back. So let's just try that. I return an appointment diary because it was broken. So now I have a negative balance in my POS, so I'm going to issue a credit memo for that. So my credit memo prints out with some ID number on it. I can see the credit memo here. So now we go to the sales menu, credit memos. This is my credit memo, which I just created, and it's created centrally, just like the gift card, so it's available in all stores. And later on, you can use this credit memo as a payment option just by entering the ID of the credit memo, which can also be printed as a barcode. So you can easily scan it to find it. Let's have a look at the item again. And LS1 can work with variant items. So the item we looked at before was one of these gray baskets, which is just a normal retail item. We also have the blue items, which are service items. The difference between the retail item and the service item is that the service item doesn't have any inventory. And then I have variant items. And the variant item can have different sizes, colors, styles, or whatever dimension that you can think of. So you create the dimensions yourselves, and you give each dimension some attributes, like colors has, red, black, and white, or something like that. And I just created this jacket item here. And my jacket item comes in different colors and sizes. So I've created the header item and generated all the variants. In LS1, each of the variants is a normal item. So any setting you have for a retail item, you also have for a variant item. This item can be sold. So if I sell the header item at the POS, it will always require me to select which color and which size I'm actually selling and sell that item. So the header item is actually not sold by itself. When I would like to change something for these variant items, say I want to change the price of it, and all of these are separate items, I have the possibility of doing something called bulk editing. So I can mark all the items at once, press the edit button, and say, okay, it wasn't supposed to be 52, it was supposed to be 62, or something like that. You can see with the green line what you have edited in the view, and as soon as I close it or save it, it will be saved down to the database for each and every item I selected. And this can be done for any items. It doesn't have to be, the header and the variant of this particular header. You can select any of the items and decide to change the retail group of those items, for an example. So now my jacket has changed to 62, all of it. And if we have a look at how we can sell it, I'm going to sell the header item by item ID. So when I sell the header item, I'm required to select a color and a size, and that one is actually sold. I talked a little bit about the prices before, so I want to talk about the discounts now. In the POS, we can give manual discounts. So an item, I can give a line discount by %. I can give a line discount in amount and say you get €2 discount, for an example. And we can give a whole transaction some discount. So if I give a transaction a total discount of 10%, then all the items in this transaction will get this 10%. That is, if the item is allowed to get discount at all, because things like cigarettes and things like that are not allowed to have a discount, then they wouldn't be discounted. We also have something called automatic discounts. So these were the manual discounts, but the automatic discounts we have in set up here in the site manager. So we have a discount offer, and the discount offer can be of 5%, and each of the discount offers can be available for a group of stores. It can be available for all the stores, or it can be even available for particular customers. You can set up customer groups and say this discount is only available for those customers. Each discount, both the discount offers and multi-buy and all these that we have left to talk about, they can have a validation period. And the validation period allows us to set up discounts such as happy hour, which are available between 5 and 7 on a Friday or something like that. So the validation period can have some starting and ending dates. You can say, during which period of day is it available, or you can even say, it's different between each of the day of the week. So on Mondays it's available from 12 to 1, on Tuesdays from 1 to 2, and so on. So if you just have a look at Himmenware, this discount offer, we have some items that have been added to this discount. So we can both add items, individual items, to the offer. You can also add retail groups or special groups or retail departments to the discount offer, so you won't have to select each and every item in that group to the discount offer. And what happens when we sell an item from this discount offer is that the discount actually gets triggered automatically, and you get the information here. So we have the information about the discount as soon as it is triggered on the POS. We also have something called promotion, which is actually a price change. It works exactly like the discount offers, but the only difference is it wouldn't show you a discount. It was just change the price of the product. So we also have something called multi-buy. So that's another automatic discount that we have. You can set up discount limits. And as for this discount, I'm going to open it. I need to disable it first. Here we have set up, if you buy the minimum of 5, you get 5% discount. If you buy 10, you get 10% discount. On 15 and 50% discount. And then you have added some items to the discount. So if I sell these items, let's just go here. I have sold one briefcase, and it doesn't matter if I sell something else in between. As soon as I'm going to use this button here, sell the 5th item, the discount will pop up to 5%. If I continue and get up to 10, you get the 10% discount, and so on. Last but not least, we have something called mix and match. And with the mix and match offers, you can actually set up multiple discounts, like buy 2 get 1 free, or get a sandwich deal for a fixed price, sandwich and a drink, and you get it for a fixed amount, and so on. So there are multiple scenarios you can set up with mix and match. And we're going to have a look at here one type of offer, which is called here the beach combo. I'm just going to open this here first. So you can see we can set up something, you have to buy certain products to get a specific deal price. You have to buy certain products to get a discount by percentage. We can have the discount by amount. You can have this least expensive would give X amount of the items for free, and it will choose the most, the least expensive items to give for free. So all this, buy two get one free and all that will use this option here. Then you can choose this line specific, and it will actually be able to give a different discount of each line added to the discount. That's too complex for just now. So let's have a look at beach combo deal here. We have two different line groups, and we need to buy one item from each of these groups. So I have the pink group with the swimsuit. I will have to buy one of those. And then I'll have to buy either skirt Linda or a towel Linda to trigger the discount. So on the line groups is something you set up just by yourself and say how many of each you have to buy to trigger the discount. So if we go to the POS and sell the swimsuit first, it doesn't matter if we sell something else in between, and then we sell the towel. As soon as I sell the towel, we will get this mix and match deal. I'm just finalizing this transaction, and next thing we're going to talk about the customers. I just showed you how we can add a customer to a transaction, but we can actually, from the POS, create new customers. I can press the add button here and say, okay, I'm going to add myself as a customer. There are some information that we can enter here, which is not mandatory, but obviously you might want to have all this information about your customers. So when I finish this creation, the customer will be created locally at the POS, but it will also be created centrally at the head office. Within a short while after you created the customer, it can be replicated from the head office down to all the POSs and stores that you have. So the customer will be available, from all your stores. A customer can have an account, and you can have a credit limit. Now my POS is set up so my customers don't have a credit limit when they're created on the POS, but that's something that you set up actually. So I'm going to not use my customer. I'm going to use any other customer. Brad & Sons. Brad & Sons went shopping, and they want to add this to their, invoice this to their account. So I'm using the payment option of customer account, and the customer was already on the transaction, so I don't have to look for it, and I'll just add this to their account. Now this has been added, to their credit, and we can have a look at it in the POS. So now we go to the customer menu up here. Have a look at Brad & Sons. We have some address details. You can have multiple addresses for the customers. And we have the ledger. So this is the transaction I just created. And you can see that the balance is, minus 1.2 of my 50,000 euro credit limit here. So a customer can also have customer-specific prices. We can have customer-specific discounts, as I mentioned before. And now we have talked about the customer ledger. We can also see that in LS1 we can do loyalty. So a customer can have a loyalty card. The loyalty points are defined in a loyalty schema. So if we say the gold member club here, this is just an example, we get some points for shopping. We get 1 loyalty point per 2 euros spent on food items. We get 1 loyalty point per 1 euro spent on non-food items, and we can use 10 loyalty points as a payment for 1 euro when we have collected the points. We can have multiple schemas, and you just have different loyalty cards within those schemas. So when my customer has now already been created, I can go to the customer menu here and say I want to add the customer to the loyalty card. I have the loyalty card number, and I want to add it to my customer, which I created. Now I have added this card to the customer. Now, of course, I would scan the card to add it to the transaction, but I don't have any scanner, so I'll have to use this operation to actually add it to the transaction. So I got 100 points just for creating the card, or enabling it. That's something you set up in the schema. And now I have added my customer and the loyalty card to the transaction, and I will get points for anything that I buy. So if I go shopping for something here, I pay with cash, and I go back to my customers. I have a look at the loyalty, and you can see that I have a loyalty card here, how many points I have, and if you want to see where the points come from, we have a list of all the transactions which have given the points. So that was for loyalty cards. Then I want to talk about customer orders. And customer orders can be created at the POS. I'll go back. And let's say I go shopping and I'm buying a dishwasher, which has a serial number. And I'm also buying some milk. And in this shop, you actually need to order the dishwasher. You come back later and get it, or something like that. So I'm creating a customer order. We have some informational strings which are actually set up in the site manager. This is something that you set up yourself. What you can select here, and if it's mandatory or not. So I'm collecting it in store, and it was a walk-in customer that is ordering. The customer is, of course, Anna. And you can select to reserve the stock. Then I go to next. I have to pick up the milk now because I have it in my basket. So these are the items I'm picking up and will be paying for fully now. The dishwasher, I have to prepay 20%, and that's something that we also set up in the customer order settings in the site manager. So when I go, I press finish to create the customer order, and when I select to pay for it, continue to payment, I will fully pay for the milk and pay this deposit to the dishwasher, and it will print a customer order slip for me and the store. And later on, when the store needs to get my order ready, they will have a list of all the customer orders here. They can use some filtering options here. You can filter to all open customer orders and so on. I only have one in my data here, so that doesn't make a lot of sense just for now. And then we can print the picking list for the person going to get your order ready. They can press this button and a picking list will be printed. I don't have my virtual printing going on, so we just have a look at how the receipt looks in the designer rather. When they have picked it up, they can mark it as ready. And when I come into the store to get my dishwasher, they can come in here and say, okay, this is your order. We get it back, and you have to fully pay and pick up entire order to get your dishwasher. This customer order functionality has been used by our partners connect to e-commerce systems such as Shopify. So then the order is placed in Shopify and actually imported to LS1 as a customer order. So you have a list of all the orders at the terminal and can work with orders from there. This is the POS layout which I've been working with. The POS layout is totally customizable. And if we have a look at that in the site manager, we have sites and we have touch button layouts. So this is the layout we have been working with. We have multiple other layouts. For an example, if we have a look at the hospitality one, it's a totally different color setting. It's going to reset it a bit so it looks better. And here you have different components which you just drag into this layout. So if I do change design here, you can see this is a drag and drop designer, and if you would like to have multiple numpads. Now I have 5 numpads in here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's actually the maximum of numpads. Then you can have, of course, multiple panels in each of the numpads, and you can have multiple buttons. But if I wanted to have the numpad, for an example, in this layout, you can just drag it from the list and drop it where you want to have it. And the item image that we were looking at in my other layout, it's here. You can drag that into the layout and so on. The colors of the buttons are all set in styles. So you can create a color style, you assign it to the buttons. If you get tired of the blue color, you change the style and all the blue buttons would become some other color. So it's easy to manipulate. And the button, it has an operation. So each of these buttons can be changed, both where you set up the button menus, can be changed in here, or you can even do it at the POS. So if we have a look, I have an empty button here. So we can, in the POS, if you of course have the permission to do so, we can set up POS operation to a button. So, let's say I'm going to say blank operation. And the blank operation is actually an operation our partners can use to create any operation they need. So if you want to add functionality to LS1, you use this blank operation, and you can do multiple operations because you actually have to select it from the list, which would be provided from your code. You can give it a name. And change the style of it if you want another color and so on. And here now we have this button which could be running your operation. So it does, you can't see the difference between the LS1 buttons or any operation that our partners have added. Now you've seen the graphical editor of the layout. We also have a graphical editor for the printouts. So we have something called form layouts. I want to show you the receipt, the customer receipt. I'm going to zoom into the header. This is the header. Then we have the lines section, and then we have the footer of the receipt. I'm zooming into the header, so it's easier to work with and have a look at. And here you can see all the yellow fields are variables, which will be populated, with the information from the transaction. Then we have the white texts, which are just, labels of these fields. Some of this information, for an example, the customer, there's not always customer on a transaction. There's not always a loyalty card on a transaction. Then this information will be excluded, and you won't get an extra line or anything like that. It will just not be included in the transaction or on the receipt if there is no customer on the receipt. So this is the header, and you can add information to the header just by pulling it into the designer. This, of course, doesn't make any sense to have there. We have the lines. So this is one item line with all the possible information that could be printed. And the same here. If there is no item comment, this line will just be skipped. There is no periodic discount, and so on. This is just all the possible printouts for an item. And the same for the footer. You have the totals, you have the tax report at the bottom for this transaction, and some just text done. This is the receipt, which is printed, you know, for the cash receipt when you are selling. We have another one for the invoice. We have something called gift receipts, which won't show the balance, or, you know, the amount. You have loyalty payment printouts. We have something printed when you open a drawer, just informational stick that you have to put in the drawer or something like that, and so on. So you can design all these here in this designer that I've shown you. And you can have you can create multiple receipt designs, for an example, and you add them to a form profile, and then you can have different profiles in your stores. So if you have different types of stores, they don't have to have the same receipt layout, all of them. And you can have also some specific, we have specific information about the store. Let's see. So if I open the store, we have form settings. So you can have different logos, of course, for your different stores. Yeah. And then we have some just informational text fields which can be added to your receipt, but you can have different for each store. So it's the same receipt design, but different information for the different stores. We also have fields which can be edited in code. So there are some fields called extra info, which you can drag in the graphical layout editor, drag into your design, and then you can manipulate what they actually display in code. So it's done easier for our partners to add to the receipt. So let's just have a quick look at the inventory. So we can do, you know, inventory handling in LS1. For the first, we have the purchase orders. We can create blank purchase orders where you are adding one item at a time, you know, either by scanning or selecting it from the item list. We can generate purchase orders from existing purchase orders. We can use purchase worksheets, which actually use our replenishment settings, and this is what we're going to have a look at a little bit. And the same, the generate from a filter. You create a filter of items, and the replenishment settings will actually be used to calculate how many you should be ordering. So I'm going to go back to the item list, and I'm going to have a look at my soda again, soft drinks. These are all the items in one retail group. I'm going to have a look at just the top one and the replenishment settings. So here we have the replenishment settings for all the items in demo data actually. We have two different settings, replenishment methods. One of them is stock level, which will actually order up to the maximum inventory if we fall below the reordering point. Or we can have something called like for like, and that will order the same amount as you have sold since last time you ordered. So these settings will be used when we generate purchase orders through the purchase worksheets. If we have a look at the purchase worksheet, I first have to generate a purchase order template. So I'm just calling it soda, and it's for my supermarket. And if now my site manager is set to be at head office, and that's why I can select which stores I want to order for. If my site manager was set to be at this store, I could only create purchase orders and purchase templates for my own store, not the other ones. This is my template. I'm going to create it for all the soda drinks I was looking at earlier. So I add a filter to my template, the item filter, Then we have some settings, like just what to display in the worksheet and what you can actually, what is calculated for you, calculate suggested quantity. Do you want to add lines with 0 suggested quantity to the worksheet, or they're just hidden, and so on. So these are just, I'm going to use the default settings. So I've created the purchase template, and now I can open the worksheet. So when I open the worksheet, it will take the item filter and add all those items to my worksheet. And in this worksheet, I can enter, you can see that they suggest what was in the replenishment settings. All my inventory levels was in 0 before. And they suggested up to the maximum inventory. You can, of course, go in and edit it and say, I'm going to have 120 this time. You can edit, what vendor you want to order from. And when we post this, it will generate purchase orders, one per vendor that is in this worksheet. So if I'm ordering from multiple vendors, you get multiple purchase orders, of course. So I post this, and I'm viewing my new purchase order. So it opened the purchase order for me. The purchase order can be printed. So you can save it as PDF or send it or something like that. When you have ordered, then you can do the goods receiving, and you can do it, by pre-populating the items and quantities, or you can be adding one line at a time. The purchase worksheet can be manipulated in the mobile inventory app if you are using that, and the receiving can be done from there also. We can do transfers between stores. So one store can request stock from another store. The other store creates a transfer order to send it to the requesting store. So you're moving stock from one store to another. For stock counting, we can open stock counting journals, and you add the items to the journal and the counted amount. You can also be importing Excel documents with the counted amounts, or CSV files. If you have a device which would give you a CSV file, you could import those into a counting journal and post. Then we also have, negative and positive adjustments that you can do. Reservations, those are, from the customer orders, can be reserving the stock. And the parked inventory is something you saw when I was doing, I did the return item. Then you have to select where this item is returned to. If it was broken, you probably don't want to put it into main inventory again. Then we can put it into parked, and you deal with it later, what you want to do, if you want to send it back to the vendor or adjust it out or something like that.
Let's have a look at the hospitality in LS1. We start by opening the POS as the restaurant, not the supermarket that we have been looking at so far.
So it's the same data, just logging in as another store. There's different configuration files, or configs. So now I don't get into the POS directly. I get into my table management. And in the table management, you can, we have different areas which you, of course, control in the site manager. Set up your areas, and the areas can be different areas within your restaurant. And you decide how many tables and, how many columns and rows and so on for the tables you have. When a person comes into your restaurant, you want to seat the person first, so you can select the table and select the option seat guests. Then the guest is light green color, and the table is taken. Then when the person is ready to order, we can open the table and you get into the POS. And this is where you can order some food and some drinks. And when we go, you have added everything to the order, we go back to the table view. And here it's offering me to print. So you can have multiple printers, one in the bar area for the drinks, one at the grill for the hamburgers or whatever, one at the salad station, and one at the dessert station, or something like that. So in the site manager, we have decided which items go to which printer. So when I decide to print, it will actually route those items to the correct places. I can also be using menu types. I actually didn't add any menu types to my order now, but you can define which items on the receipt are the starters, which are the mains, and which are the desserts. Then you can select just to print the starters first, and then you print the other ones later on. So I'm just printing all. So now it will be printed in the kitchen, and it's actually just a receipt slip that will be printed with the quantities and the comments and everything that you have added to the receipt. Later on, you want to pay, so I go back into here, and they want to split the bill. So the first person was actually eating the grilled chicken and the water, and we just move it over to the right-hand side and say we want to pay for that piece. So we pay for that, and we get back into the split bill functionality. And you can, of course, say, okay, we were sharing this course, so I moved just half of it over. For example, if you're sharing a pizza or sharing a bottle of wine or something like that. And just continue until you've fully paid. And the last one, we can just pay. I'm paying for the rest. And in this way, finalize the transaction. Pre-receipts can be printed, before going, to go to the table and show the receipts. Similar way to splitting the bill, which we were doing, you can actually transfer the order between tables. So if you were first seated in the bar area and you ordered from there, you can move the order to a table in the patio or something like that. So that's the main additions the hospitality is giving you in LS1. You can also run hospitality functionality such as split bill and printing in the kitchen without the table view. So for over-the-counter restaurants, you can be, doing the kitchen printing with a slip number. So you can call out the numbers when the order is ready and so on, things like that. Yeah, and one thing which I haven't mentioned is item modifiers. Actually, in demo data, this is a bit silly setup, but we have a margarita pizza, and I can say, okay, I want to change the order. I want to add toppings to my pizza. That was, from the vegetables, and then we are selecting from the toppings category, you can say, and then those items are added to the pizza. But I'm not sure anybody would be adding a kilo of broccoli to the pizza, so that's just set up. So that was for hospitality. So I'm going back to my slides now. Next topic is a little bit about the architecture of the system. So here you can see one multi-store setup where we have a headquarters, which has a database, which would be the head office database. You have a site manager to control things from the head office. And we have something called the site service. The site service is the service taking care of all this information which is stored at the head office database, such as the gift cards I was talking about and the credit memos, and actually all the inventory processes go through the site service. Then we have the store level, and in this case we have a back office database and the site manager taking care of maybe goods receiving and things like that. And then we have the terminals, and each of the terminals have their own database. And that means that the terminals can, run and sell even though you don't have a network connection. So they are offline. The only things that you couldn't do is, of course, then pay with the gift cards or the credit memos and things like that. things that actually require connection to the site service. Then we use the data director. The data director is something, a tool, Alice Retail. All our products use this tool to replicate data between the locations. So it's widely proven and in very big scenarios, not only for LS1 but also LS-NAD. So the data director takes care of replication of changes that are made in the headquarters level down to the stores and the terminals. It also picks up the transactions from the terminals up to the headquarters. So you need to take up the transactions, of course, to keep your inventory levels and all that correct. And then if you're connecting to a ERP system, you would connect that to the headquarters level, and the data director then would take care of distributing those changes and information you're getting from the ERP system down to the stores and terminals. This is, of course, just one scenario. There are, you can connect the POS and the site manager to databases anywhere. So the database, as long as you have access to the database, it doesn't matter where it is. And if you have a reliable connection, you can decide, I just want to have a database one database within my store, and all the terminals are supposed to connect to that database. Or, we have a hosted environment. You can have everything controlled from a cloud or a database located in a cloud, and the site manager is connected somewhere, connecting to that cloud database, and the POSs will be offline, but connecting to the cloud database to update, to get the new prices and all that. So there are multiple scenarios in this, and this is just maybe one of the main ones. For LS1 partners, you can go through the functionality training, and then you go to development training. LS1 is developed in C#.NET, and for the site manager, for an example, is plugin based. So you can create your own plugins and just drop them into the site manager, and your customers won't see, difference between the customizations and added functionality and the main functionality of LS1. So you just have one application to control everything. And as I showed you before, you can create your own operations for the POS also and add to the functionality in that way. So during the development training, you get access to the development pack, which is a Visual Studio project with all the open source code in. And the most common changes are EFT payments, connections, fiscalization rules, in different countries, and then the ERP connections to different ERP systems.
Thank you for watching our LS1 demo. For more information, go to our website, lsretail.com.